Donald Trump has made it very clear that a priority of our administration will be removing criminal aliens. We'll also be finding people who've overstayed their visa. An enormous number of people come to this country legally and then simply overstay their visas because we make no effort to hold them accountable to that or uphold the law. The simple truth is that what the American people long to see is leadership at the national level that doesn't myopically focus on the group that you're focused on, and I know the media loves to focus on.
Republican Vice Presidential nominee Mike Pence talking to Chuck Todd about the 11 million plus undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. There are still questions about what the Trump plan will do about this group. His proposals so far have alienated some of his top Latino advisors who say they were misled by the billionaire candidate. For more on this, let's bring in our panel. Joining me now, Luciana Lopez, politics correspondent for Reuters, Victoria DeFrancesco, MSNBC contributor and professor of Mexican-American Studies at the University of Texas, and Adolfo Franco, former advisor to Senator John McCain. A big welcome to all three of you. Thank you for your time on the holiday weekend. I'll start with you, Victoria. What do you think was the deal breaker for Trump's Hispanic supporters?
It was his last lack of pivot, because going into the RNC convention, Latinos were holding their breath, waiting to see if there was going to be a general election pivot. That didn't happen. And then there were murmurs that maybe he was going to have that come to Jesus moment a little later and say, you know what, I'm going to lay out a path to legalization. I'm going to work with Latinos. I'm going to work with immigrants. And then last week, up until Wednesday night, again, everyone was holding their breath. And there was a collective letdown, because really, at this point, there is no way to remedy what has been done. We're about 68, 70 days away from the election, and Latinos are not going to vote for Trump given that stance, or at least not more than 20%. I don't think he's going to get above the 22% we saw in his last poll. So I think it was the nail in the coffin for Trump being able to get that sizable Latino vote that you need to get to the White House.
Yeah, let's look at these numbers here with just 65 days to go. This new poll, this latest one, is suggesting that Clinton is literally trouncing Trump by quite a large margin. Look at the numbers there. 68% favorability with Clinton, 21% for Donald Trump. Adolfo, do you think the tone of Trump's speech on immigration, is that what cost him the chance to change those numbers?
Well, I don't understand how anybody for one moment thought that Donald Trump was going to do better with Latino voters to change his message. You know, Mitt Romney, who I worked for, got 27% of the Latino vote. The fact of the matter is, and I know the Latinos who've left very well the campaign, they were vociferously against Mr. Trump and said they would never support him, and they've gone back and forth. The fact of the matter is, I'm not supporting Donald Trump, but I have to hand it to him. I think his message was consistent. I think we'd all be talking about inconsistencies and hypocrisy if he were to change his point of view. And secondly, I don't think the Latino voters who have been voting in large number for Democrats for years were going to change their minds just because of a speech. The speech and the visit to Mexico was designed to reach particularly suburban Republican women and the white vote, which he needs to solidify. And I think it was a success. I think his visit to Mexico was a success, and then he returned to Phoenix and fundamentally gave the same speech he gave when he launched his presidential bid. So I have to say that, with all honesty, the target here is not the Latino community. That's a pipe dream. It's solidifying Republican support, because many of those positions, to all the viewers understand, are not just Mr. Trump's positions. They're the positions held by many conservative Republicans.
Yeah, there is an ideology that indeed may have been the target of these actions here. That said, Luciana, has Clinton been winning over Hispanics rather by default? You have the Washington Post pointing out this week that her campaign has virtually run no Spanish language TV ads in the general election. Might she be taking their vote for granted?
This has been a concern among Latino communities actually going back for months. On May 2nd, for example, there was a meeting with some Latino groups and the DNC, and I wrote about this, and the message that those Latino advocacy organizations, who are nonpartisan, but that they stressed was, you can't just bash Trump and think that's going to be enough to win our votes. So this is something that Latino civic organizations have been bringing up for months now to anyone who will listen. You can't just bash Trump and think that that's a policy proposal that will draw in Latino voters and give them a reason, a proactive reason, to head to the polls.
I want to ask all three of you this question, get you to answer. Can Donald Trump win the election without significant support from the Latino community? Luciana, you first.
It all depends on turnout on both sides. The thing with Latino voters is they're historically underrepresented at the polls. The same thing with groups like Asian American voters. So if they don't turn out in significant numbers, if they don't harness that political power that we've been talking about for so long, then we're going to go back to square one in terms of, well, what do their votes really matter for?
Okay. What do you think, Victoria?
I agree with Luciana on this. So if Latinos do not turn out in the numbers that we've historically seen, you know, they need to turn out above that 50% mark, which they have trouble getting to, then that is going to give Donald Trump an advantage. The other thing is, let's not forget about those folks who have been disillusioned by Hillary Clinton, all of the problems that have plagued her. Talk about those independents, those moderate Democrats that may just stay home. So if you add that to low Latino voter turnout and a mobilized Trump base, there is room for a Trump presidency. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible.
Want to point out, Adolfo, 12% of the voting electorate are Hispanic. So how much of that does Donald Trump need to get, and how much will he get?
Well, I think he's going to get a quarter of the vote. This is one of those times when the panel's pretty much in agreement. I will remind everyone listening that among the largest states with Hispanic votes are Texas, Florida, Arizona, and those are reliably Republican red states. So absolutely Donald Trump can win the presidency without a significant Latino vote. I think it's possible. The wild card here is, and I agree with all the other the commentaries of my friends on the panel, is how many people are going to turn out for Donald Trump that have not participated in the past. That's what he's banking on, and that can make the difference. But he can absolutely win without more than a quarter of the Latino vote if everything else lines up for him.
So that's a lot of ifs, though, for
There
what
are.
that's worth. Okay, Luciana Lopez, Victoria DeFrancesco, and Adolfo Franco. Guys, stay with us. You have a short coffee break. You'll be right back soon. Thank you.